We need our weave. I don't wear it, but we need it.
What black community? It's a black environment with black women and black children in it.
How dare you say that we are not interested in families in the black community?
JLA. more than change the conversation. We change the balance of power in the federal government.
Good women are dead. Evil bitches, rise up!
Mic check. Good morning. Good morning. Who's up early on a Sunday? Who had chores to do but decided I'll put them off for another hour or two? Yeah, I got errands to run. I got things to do before I go to work. I got time to kill. I got a couple of hours to kill. Sorry about that. I had a work phone call. Oh, niggas leave me alone. I ain't even supposed to be there yet. Anyway, we were gonna. You know what? I'm just gonna jump right into the show. Let me give you guys a little bit of a warm up here, though. Let me give you a bit of an intro here. So, we're gonna review a conversation between DJ Hamp and the ladies, the risky ladies. We're gonna start calling them risky women because all these, they're nice, they're polite, they're calm, they don't get all black girl magic like in the Chitlin circuit, these black women panels, but they're all risky women, And the title of the channel is This Might Be Risky. So DJ Hamp had an interesting conversation with his risky women. But before we do that, a black woman from Harvard. Yeah, she went to Harvard. And she's explaining that the two-parent family doesn't really benefit black people all that much. Yeah. It's what a Harvard education gets you.
Next, rethinking widely held beliefs about racial inequality. For decades, scholars have drawn a strong link between high rates of single-parent households and the disadvantages faced by Black Americans. Well, our next guest is challenging that idea. It's all in her new book, Inherited Inequality. Harvard sociologist Christina Cross joins Michelle Martin to explain how viewing systemic disparity through a different lens could help these disadvantaged Black communities.
Physiognomy check. She's giving off angry lesbian. I bet children are afraid of her. You make babies cry.
Thanks, Christiane. Professor Christina Cross, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
You know, your book is kind of a myth buster, I guess, if I could call it that.
Hey, Shaka, am I pronouncing it wrong? I was saying Harvard, but is it Harvard? She went to Harvard? I thought Harvard. No, that's Howard. Howard University. Okay, so there's Howard and then there's Harvard. Oh, all right. Interesting.
Because you really challenge some of the things that we have just sort of come to accept as part of kind of social policy or family policy. You say that, you open the book by reflecting on your own childhood in Milwaukee, where the two-parent family was kind of held up as the antidote to all manner of ills like, poverty and crime and so on. And one of the reasons that struck me just to begin with is that I think that there's sort of an attitude that African Americans don't talk about issues like this among themselves. Like this is sort of an outside-in conversation. And so the first thing that I noticed was you say that this was kind of a commonly discussed theme in your childhood, at church and your family members. Can you just talk about that very briefly?
Yes.
Now, notice this lady from Harvard here. She is attempting to justify Black women's newfound social order, which is the matriarchal single family community. Not just, the single parent community, not just a few single moms in general, but now this is a whole community that needs to be defended. And so this is why the girls go to college, so they can learn how to defend their moms rhetorically.
So I, like you mentioned, am from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I grew up in a working class community there. And many times I would hear folks at church, at school, within my neighborhood, sort of trying to grapple with many of the challenges that we were facing and trying to understand what really was driving some of the issues within my community. And often,
I'm sorry, Carmen, was that a little too harsh? It's early. I ain't got time for this
and
shit.
family structure in particular, single parent families came up as part of the narrative. And a lot of times the story was that our community was better off when we had higher rates of two-parent households, and that unfortunately there had been a change with an increase in single-parent families, which was, among other things, a really important factor in driving some of the challenges we are facing.
Now, everybody knows the old argument that back in the 40s, well, the 50s and beyond, right? The 50s and earlier, Black people had high marriage rates, which meant we produced children within the structure of a stable two-family household way more often, higher than even white families by per capita.
Here's where your book takes an interesting turn. You write that Americans have great faith in the power of the family, and in particular, the power of the two-parent family. We imagine this domestic idol to be a haven from the harsh realities of the outside world. And the way we rhapsodic, it's easy to assume that most Americans see the two-parent family as a great equalizer. And you say you were raised to believe in this. And growing up, the adults regularly invoked this family structure as a solution to a host of problems facing our low-income African-American community. So that's the first thing. You say that, look, there's a reason that so many of us continue to hold fast to the idea that, two-parent families are advantageous. It's true. I mean, it's just common sense. But one of the central findings here is that the negative effect of single motherhood on child outcomes is weaker for African-American children than for white children. And the well-being of Black youth from two-parent families is substantially lower than that of their white peers.
Now, I think even if I were to accept those numbers on face value, I don't have to accept her argumentation and her reasoning on face value, right? One, the idea that the single parent home is less damaging to Black children, as if we're like genetically built for the matriarchy. I don't know if that's true, and I'm going to need a lot more evidence to just believe that. And there could be a lot of other factors as to why, white patriarchal family couples just have more success than Black ones.
When is the first time that finding became clear to you?
Well, it was about a decade ago for me when I was working on my dissertation research. Like any good graduate student, I wanted to explore what we already knew about the topic of family structure before designing a project of my own. And one of the things that I found relatively hidden in the data was this striking finding. I had found that several researchers had uncovered that the negative impact of living with a single mother was smaller for African American children. And of course, I was really struck by that, given the conversations that I had been hearing since I was a child, but also what I knew more generally. 80% of white Americans and 70% of Hispanic Americans and 60% of African Americans all agree that African Americans have a harder time getting ahead because of differences in family upbringing, specifically family structure. So this is a consensus or a widely held idea that was at odds with what I was finding in the data, which made me explore more. That finding was about single motherhood. And I began to wonder about the flip side of the coin. What is it like for African American children when they grow up in two-parent families? Do they reap the same rewards?
Now, here's the issue at hand, right? And there's a bit of the similar issue playing out in the chat right now. Let me see if I can smooth this out between Miss Cantrell and Shaka in the chat. Human survival as a species does not depend on a patriarchal order. As a biological species, you do not need patriarchy to merely exist, right? That being said, though, there are countless little islands, little uncontacted tribes around the world that merely exist. One of the fundamental building blocks of building a higher ordered society is a structured relationship between the man and the woman, a monogamous relationship between the man and the woman. Now, there can be a little bit of, gray area on the edges. Kings have mistresses and whatnot. Wealthy men will always have multiple women and all that. But at the core is the primacy of the relationship between man and woman, because lineage, property, authority gets passed down through that relationship. Like the king-queen dynamic is a model that is replicated down through the lower elements of society. Every great society has a similar version of that scenario. No one has broken that mold and built Rome. No one has broken that mold and built the Ming dynasties or whatever. It's almost a fact of human nature that you have to kind of master that simple level of human behavior to kind of get to the next level of a society. But there's Black women.
Do they reap the same reward? So do you want to can we take those sort of separately? What's your theory? Why is it that growing up in a single parent household is more damaging to white kids than to Black kids? Why do you think that is?
That actually became the focus of my dissertation research. And I began to test some theories that had already been put out in the world, but they were at that point speculation. There were two in particular that I decided to test. One of them focused on extended families. So we know that in general, African Americans tend to be more deeply embedded in their extended family networks. They're much more likely to live with extended kin or to live close to them, and they engage in significant amounts of support exchange. And one of the theories suggested that African Americans' more deeply embeddedness in this extended family actually served as a protective factor. It sort of buffered against some of the negative consequences of single motherhood.
I think kind of anecdotally, a lot of us have seen that. Do you know what I mean? And it also explains the way that sort of legal structures kind of work against Black families. Like, for example, this whole business of people registering their kids in out of boundary schools, like schools where they don't live, but maybe their grandparents live.
And there is a subtle linguistic manipulation happening here. The family is generally seen, a whole complete family is, husband, wife, children, man, woman, child. Where she is now going is attempting to redefine the family as something more of a clan, where your mom lives over here and now your grandmom lives over there, and we're going to use grandma's address to put you in that school system, right? That's your clan. That is not the nuclear family. We haven't really built the legal structure to support your clan.
Then you look more closely at it and you think, oh, wait a minute, the grandparents function as another set of parents. Like the grandparents might have the kids Monday through Friday, and the parent has the kids on the weekends because that's a better school. And then people look at that and think, oh, you're doing something illegal. But for them, it makes sense. It's normal, right?
Yes, and actually that's one of the things that I have explored in other areas of my research, how some groups just do family differently, and it's much more common for African.
No, some groups just don't quite do family. They do a primitive version of that, which is the clan. We're all huddled up. The community is one giant longhouse.
How dare you say that we are not interested in families in the Black community?
Americans to involve extended relatives in routine child rearing tasks, and even to share households some of the time or all of the time with these extended relatives. But if we focus so much on the nuclear family, we will miss that, and we can make it actually much harder to support these families.
And you're saying that the corollary to that is that white families, that's less common. It's less common, like the focus really is very much sort of the nuclear family. And that if a single parent doesn't have that, a single white parent doesn't have that, it becomes much harder.
Well, they're much.
Right. The white community, by and large, is not focused on clans. The white community is focused on the more Germanic style of village life, where we all have our little house and our little garden, and the children play in the yard, and the women grow vegetables, and the men build things. What she's talking about is more like the clan, where the men just kind of mill about during the day, not doing much of anything, and the women are off in the shade talking about things and making decisions.
More likely to live further apart from other relatives. And actually, in my study, I found that many white single parents, reported less satisfaction with the amount of support they were receiving from their extended relatives.
Interesting. Okay, so then let's take it the other way, which is to say that Black kids who live with two parents don't seem to reap the same benefit as white kids who live with two parents. Why is that?
Because Black kids with two parents still have a Black mom. I'm sorry, I just had to say that. It's been proven. It has been scientifically proven. There is such a thing as the white mom effect. Even people have kind of started to notice this, like socially. If you get a mixed girl, it's better for her to have a white mom than a Black mom. A mixed girl with a white mom is the tame mix. A mixed girl with a Black mom, those some risky bitches, bro.
That Black kids who live with two parents don't seem to reap the same benefit as white kids who live with two parents. Why is that?
Well, To understand this, I think it's important to understand why living with in a two-parent family is generally beneficial for children in the first place. And it's because parents have more monitoring and time to spend supervising children, but they also have more money on average. So in general, children in two-parent families have.
Are you saying a white family just produces better outcomes because of money? I don't think it's all about money. You know, some things money can't buy. We were looking at Crimson Cure yesterday, and I was kind of just noticing the harshness and the strident nature of her tone and her mannerisms and all that. And money can't soften a woman up, you know? If you're a hard bitch, there's no amount of money that's gonna make you lovely and wonderful.
Access to more resources. Well, unfortunately, one of the things that I found in my data is that Black children who grew up in two-parent families have drastically fewer resources, in particular economic resources, than white children who grow up in the same type of family. Their household incomes are about 60% of that of white two-parent households, and their family wealth is just a quarter, 25%.
Why does that matter? Why does that matter? That the gap in wealth and assets, the money that exists because of, your house or your investments and things like that. Why does that gap matter so much, in your opinion?
Well, wealth matters so much for being able to give people a sense of economic security at any point, but especially during moments of downturn, right? You mentioned the recession earlier. Having wealth can make all the difference in being able to keep your home or not, and it being able to afford to send your children to a quality school, and being able to provide children other advantages as they try to establish their own independent household. There are many parents who offer their children help with down payments to own homes, which of course allows for a greater and earlier accumulation of more wealth. So you can sort of see this compounding advantage from having access to more assets and having higher levels of wealth.
So you want the wealth that they have, but you don't want to do what they've done. Like, you understand how long it takes for your grandparents to be born, to live, to work, build up some money, and then they have your mom and dad over time. And then the mom and dad, they grow up, they go to school, and then now between those four people, they have enough wealth accumulated to buy another home for the parents themselves. And now those parents can help you buy your home when you get old enough and you want to marry. You understand the amount of time and effort that all went into that simple thing? And here you are. You just want to bust it open and have the house next week. No, baby. You're missing so much of the equation. There's so many things that need to happen. I couldn't even explain it all to you in one comment.
How dare you say that we are not interested in families in the Black community?
The other night I was up here with a Free Zone and SKC, and we were talking about civilization and the little intricacies. What do you need to qualify as a civilization? And we did mention the family unit. And one of the things is, I talked about how a lot of folk don't quite understand the civilization in and of itself, this thing that we all live in together. And she seems to not understand that despite her desire to reinforce the Black matriarchy, the Black matriarchy in and of itself has never built a civilization that was stronger than its neighbors, right? Anytime Black matriarchy runs up against somebody else, they always wind up getting enslaved, right? And it's hard to explain that to the girls. The girls don't really grasp that reality. It's not like in their bones the way it is for men.
Are any of these findings surprising to you?
Well, yes, actually. It was already concerning to find that Black children from two-parent families had drastically lower academic and labor market opportunities than their white peers. But what I was really struck by, and what I did not expect to find, is that Black children in two-parent families had outcomes that were more similar to their white peers who lived in a single-parent family than to their white peers who grew up with both parents.
Why is that?
Well, it goes back to these resource disparities that I mentioned before in large part. But actually, I found that for some outcomes, economic resources had less to do with what was going on, but things outside.
I mean, by and large, there is just a crazy wealth difference when it comes to the white experience versus the Black experience. I mean, that's something that's just deeply built into the the whole Black white thing. When you talk about the history of the two groups in America, there was a chart we saw recently, a couple of shows back, where right around the civil rights era, Black and white wealth before that point were not that far apart. There was a gap, but it wasn't huge the way it is now. And after the civil rights era, white wealth just steadily climbed up, where Black wealth kind of just kept puttering along. And the difference in the two family structures is a big part of that, obviously. But that's not something that you can just change by giving women more money, because white women don't buy hair. Can we explain the wealth gap in weave bundles?
When I die, I'ma go to Snow Bunny Heaven. Snow Bunny Heaven.
At the home also come into play. So one thing that I found is that Black children in two-parent families were 2 to 4 times more likely to be suspended or expelled from school than their white peers. And they had very high suspension rates compared to any group.
Yeah. Your children of the single Black mom home, violent little psychopathic savage baby children.
Give me the money. Give me the money, but I will do. Give me the money.
Shout out to Dylan James with the $2 super chat. Violent little bastard babies.
Well, economic resources only explain a small fraction of what was going on there. But what I also found is that when it comes to their behaviors, they were not different with respect to how they showed up in the classroom. But there's been a ton of research to show that Black children's behaviors are often perceived to be more negative and disruptive in the classroom.
In Georgia, I told you guys they have passed a law because the kids are behaving so badly in school. They are so violent that we have to now lock up the parents, right? That's kind of the behavior we're talking about.
And so then we think about how perception really plays a role in driving these disparities in school discipline.
So you point out that Black two-parent families are almost invisible in academic literature, even though they make up nearly half of Black families today. Why do you think that is?
That's correct. Well, for so long, the conversation about
because writing about single moms is just tragic and depressing, and you have to lie basically if you want to sell this shit. So nobody wants to just go focus and study them for real.
About Black families has been about single parent families. There's been such a concern with trying to figure out why African Americans have a harder time getting ahead on life. And so then the conversation and the attention has been on these single mother families. And so even though there has been a rise in Black two-parent families, that's not where we have been focused on for so long. Narratives are incredibly powerful in sort of directing our attention and shaping the way that we think about issues. And so because that's been just such a long-standing narrative, the narrative about Black single parenthood, I think it has made it difficult for us to really imagine and think about Black two-parent families.
So what do you think has been lost by not spending more time thinking about this Black two-parent family experience?
it leads us to some pretty false assumptions about what's really driving inequality and outcomes for Black children, but also what can be doing to level the playing field. Because we haven't focused on Black two-parent families, we haven't known how drastic the opportunity gaps are for this group compared to their white peers. It has allowed us to believe for so long that the two-parent family is this great equalizer, which has actually shown up in the way that we craft policy.
You know, we have to say something very delicately at this point. We are, I guess, for the sake of feelings, we are attempting to explore and exhaust every other avenue before we simply accept what has been a truth staring us in the face this whole time. By and large, you know, especially on the whole, Black people and white people are just very different. Now, we need not be unkind and get into all the harsh rhetorics of it all, but it is a simple truth.
What are some of the things that would actually, based on your findings, actually make a difference for families?
So it is true that when Black children grow up with both parents, they tend to experience advantages, and they do tend to have improved outcomes. It is also true, unfortunately, that they still lag behind their white peers in the same family structure. And my findings indicate that much of that has to do with these wide gaps in economic resources. And so if we really want to turn the tide, we need to be thinking about how to bolster family resources. Instead of making cuts to key social safety net programs like Medicaid and SNAP and Children's Health Insurance Program, we could be thinking about ways to help families to stay afloat during these challenging times.
Notice how the solution, no matter what Black problem is being talked about, the Black solution is always give me more money.
Come on, share your dollar, give me your dollar, share your dollar with me. Come on.
It's always, man. It's like X solves for everything, and X equals give me money.
By increasing that amount of aid. Another thing that people are really surprised to find out is that TANF, Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, which we just commonly refer to as welfare, its budget has not increased since it was created in 1996. So nearly 30 years ago. And when we think about inflation since that time, we really start to see that this program is falling behind in the amount of support that it is providing to families, or what we thought was adequate even 30 years ago. So even just thinking about trying to make sure that that funding keeps up with inflation. There's also been different strategies that we've seen that were effective recently that we could have continued. I think about the expansion of the child tax credit during the COVID-19 pandemic and how that lifted tens of millions of children out of poverty. And it really made a difference in increasing economic resources for families. Why can't we continue to do that? We see that it works.
So the bottom line is, you're just saying that living in a two-parent family has significant advantages for white kids. It has advantages for all kids. It particularly advantages white kids. It really doesn't advantage Black kids that much. So
You really should look deeply into the why. I think the why is the tricky part. And Trey the MBD with the 5 ball, he says, BS, homie. Culture, not skin tone, is the difference. Crackers raised around nins have ends outcomes. Well, I don't think I ever stated otherwise. I just simply said Black and white people are different. I really didn't even get into the ins and outs of it all. But I don't disagree with that statement either. Cultural differences too. Now we could dive deeper with that, but this is a fully monetized product we're putting out today. So we're going to be kind. We're going to be kind and gentle like the hands of a masseuse, bro. We're not going to do anything to hurt anybody's feelings because people getting their feelings hurt lately, and it's getting dangerous out here,
So if people are not willing to see that, what does that say? If they're not willing to sort of adjust for the difference, what does that say?
Well, if we continue to assume that the benefits of this family structure are universal, we're not going to be able to close these gaps that we say that we care so much about. It will lead to us perpetuating inequalities between children of different races as they have gone on for decades.
What if, and hear me out, because some Sundays I wake up and I'm a pessimist. Maybe it's because I don't go to church. But what if some gaps just aren't gonna fully close ever, and you will be swimming up a waterfall attempting to do such a thing? Now, if you want to kind of close the gap to some degree in general, yeah, that's a great effort. That's just general improvement. If you want the arch, if you want the number on your graph of potential or productivity to go up, then you constantly make improvement, right? But I think maybe, just maybe, the gaps might not ever be totally closed. And one should be at peace with such things.
One of the reasons why I call my book Inherited Inequality is because I want to highlight this unequal access to opportunity that has persisted in the U.S. across generations. And we don't want to continue to pass that on to the next generation.
I'm imagining that some might look at your findings and say that this takes people off the hook, that people should exercise personal responsibility. And that's sort of blaming outside forces for your kid's lack of success in school and things of that sort is unhelpful and kind of perpetuates a sort of a lack of sense of personal responsibility. What would you say to somebody who made that argument?
Well, the thing about my book is that I'm looking at people who've done it, quote unquote, the right way. They've done what society said we should do in order to guarantee our children's success. And yet they have not found their children in a position to actualize those same dreams of success. Unfortunately, their children don't have access to the same opportunities. So this goes beyond the individual. These are parents who have managed to stay together for decades. I follow children from birth through young adulthood, and they provided a stable home for their children. And after doing what they were told was supposed to guarantee them a bright future for their children, they still have to endure additional barriers. This is not.
When she says barriers, she means being white. See, this is what I mean by some things we should just learn to be at peace with. As a young Black man, if you luck up, you work hard, you make all the right decisions in your life, you marry a decent woman, a Black woman, and she's on the same path, she works hard, she makes good decisions, you both made good decisions in one another, and you have children, and your children are successful, and they go on to have similar success as their parents and all that, they play it forward, they will never be white. And that is okay. Learn to live with yourself.
Simply about individual responsibility. Individuals, of course, have choice and agency, but they're also facing significant constraints.
Professor Christina Cross, thank you so much for talking with us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, what's fascinating about this conversation that we just had, it was a conversation in support of Black single motherhood, hosted by this Caucasian light looking woman. She's like a desert Caucasian. And there were no men at all involved in this conversation. The entire Black family effort at this point appears to be decensoring men. The Black family unit, in a lot of ways, you could argue, is built around decensoring the men. Speaking of decensoring the men, I want to take you now to a conversation that was had on This Might Be Risky, hosted by DJ Hamp and the Iceman, aka Big Aaron. And I've already said how, delicate, how gentle the approach is with these ladies here. And everything tends to be relatively toned down on this channel anyway. And I suspected it was because of some personal relationships going on here. And I learned more. Sometimes Hamp had his sister up. I think Hamp is married to one of these ladies, and Iceman is also married to one of these ladies. So very gentle, very, very gentle. Trey with the 5 ball, he says, solution for the fellas, drop black and don't procreate with strags of any shade of wheat. Yes, it's that easy. I do believe you are correct. Yeah, drop the blackness thing and try to figure things out as if you were not Black. Like, what's the best thing to do if I didn't have to worry about all that slave shit in my history? Right? That's the simplest way to move forward, right? Just be a guy. Just do the things that men do. But hit that like button, y'all. We are now getting into a little bit more controversial conversation here because the ladies, all four, it's 4 against 2. The ladies are all supporting raising the children and teaching them and defending the concept of African American vernacular English. Ebonic niggas.
How do it equivalent?
And I can't shut up. I wish I could. I really wish I could shut the fuck up, but I can't.
People in our future, in our culture, and if we want to survive in this country, how do we get ahead? How do we get successful? And so that's where the rubber met the road, in which case we said, okay, let's assemble people who actually invested in the children, have the mind to, and actually do it for a living, So if you had to state your premise on AAVE, Dr. G, what would it be?
So my premise is that African American vernacular is the way that we speak English. And when I say we, I'm talking about Black people. There are other cultures who speak English in a particular way as well. So we have Chicano English, which is the way Hispanic people or Mexican people speak the English. There's Pidgin English, which I think is, don't quote me on this one, but I think this is the way the Native Americans use English.
That's not what Pidgin English is. Pidgin, all right, first of all, by going directly to Chicano and Pidgin, you're automatically talking about people who speak English as a second language, as opposed to Black Americans who don't speak any other language. So like Pidgin, I think it's pronounced, is typically a blend of English and some other foreign tongue because it's for foreigners who can't quite speak English.
And so we are not the only ones that are using this English in a particular way. This all came about because theorists and different educators were trying to make sense of the difference between how we speak English, and this is in the schools, right? How we speak English and that versus the standard English. And so this conversation has been going on for a very long time. And of course, you have people on both sides of it. My contention is students are.
Now, what I want to kind of tie together, just tie these two threads together, because we're still talking about single moms versus the nuclear families. And what I kind of see here is a defense of the culture of the single moms, but the kids are competing with the children of nuclear families, right? And what Hampton and Aaron are attempting to do is explain to the women that you're sending your children into a fight without any weapons. Like they got rusty swords and little, they got little butter knives and shit. You're sending them into mortal combat with poor weapons. And the girls are like, well, these are black people weapons.
Already know African American vernacular. That's what we speak. That's what they hear most often. So no one has to teach them that. What we have to do as educators is teach them how to use standard English in African American vernacular's place when the situation calls for it, right? So we're not going to abandon our home language, our home tongue. We don't need to do that.
English is not, well, let me start over. Ebonics is not your home tongue. Your home tongue is English. Therefore, standard English is your home tongue.
We simply need to teach the kids how to use the proper language in the proper setting. And that's it.
Okay. Yeah.
So that is her intro. That is her thesis. Ebonics, or basically slang, is the language of the black people. And when black people are away from black people, which means professional settings, right? Because anything non-black in this conversation is like a professional setting. So when you want to be more, when you want to be better, when you want to raise up, then you start speaking standard English, right? You see how you're already low, you're putting yourself on a back foot already.
And so let me just lay this right, because this is where the rubber met the road. Essentially, I was saying that it is important to teach the academic, what do we call it? Academic English or standard English.
Mm-hmm.
Reinforce it in the homes.
In the home.
And my greatest concern was because we're reading at worse levels than Latinos who also speak a different language in their homes. And yet when we do our testing and scores, Latinos have ranked over Black American children.
So the Latino immigrants, they speak a completely different language. They literally have a foreign home tongue. When they go home, it's mira, mira, mira all day long. They can actually read and write better English than our children right now. Do you not understand? You're in a dying position here.
And so my concern is that if we don't reinforce academic English, then we see our kids kind of being at a deficit. So that's where Dr. G and I were at, right? You know what I mean? So I'm going to step back, right? Because I asked you guys to be here because you guys, I'm more novice, a layman in this, you know? And so, Aaron, unless you wanted to say something, Dr. G.
Well, I was just going to say that I don't know the numbers. I won't pretend to know, Latinos or this or that in terms of the numbers, right? Because I haven't even looked it up. But what I will say is that in Mexican homes, there is no emphasis on English language.
Right.
That's not happening in Mexican homes. Mexican homes are trying to preserve their culture, their language. And so kids are learning to speak their home language at home. So I'm not sure how the numbers are panning out that Mexican students are doing.
You're actually arguing as if African American culture is literally a culture foreign to America. Well, first of all, we're not African American. I don't like using that term anyway, but Black American culture is American culture. And you're acting as if somehow being Black makes you foreign to America the way that the Mexicans are literally foreign to America.
Doing that much better linguistically than Black students because they don't even know the language at all. They don't know English most of the time, especially as young children, right? They're learning the English. So how is it that I don't know about that?
Yeah, 100%. I think the retort is it seems simple to me, right? And then we'll pass it along. Is that they don't have the like a broken. So if you have grammatically incorrect being taught in the home, it then is contrary to what they're learning in the school. The fact that Spanish is totally separate from English, there is no confusion. And so that's what I would say. I liken it to like flag football versus real football. If you play flag football forever, once you get on an 11-man football field, you're going to be slightly out of your depth and misunderstand it because it's not one-to-one. But there's so many similarities, people think they know. And so I think that there's a confusion there. That would be just, you know, how I would kind of like not even retort, but explain, I guess. So
Damn, I understand you, bro, but you know, these are girls and you're using flag football versus real football. This is a very intricate comparison there. I don't think the girls quite understand the depth of it all.
I'm gonna step back. Let me get a big Aaron in, and then we'll go around the room. Man, like, share, subscribe, tell a friend, and tell a friend.
Right. So, I mean, my position on it really is that it's something that would be wonderful, to study from an anthropological perspective. I think it should be absolutely offered as an elective. And
we are doing some community anthropology right now, Big Aaron. You all 6 of you are under the anthropological microscope right now. We are taking notes. We are writing this down for posterity. We're building an entire university level discipline right now. No one has studied the Negro as much as we have studied the Negro over here on this channel. You know, between SKC and myself, SKC being the founder of this entire field of research, we have been putting in the work.
You know, higher education arenas. But as far as teaching it in schools, I do think that not teaching it, but using it as a teaching tool in schools is something that will muddy the water, so to speak, much to what Hamp was saying. I think the goal really should be to learn the pristine example of the language and master it as much as you possibly can, because that's going to be the language that's used in the global arena and in the national arena. I think the second most spoken language was Mandarin Chinese, and then Spanish, I think. Or no, Hindi and then Spanish are the top 4. In those countries, they have dialects of their own language, but then they learn the pristine language as well as these other languages in their most pristine and proper form. I just don't think it has a place in K through 12 next to standard English.
What doesn't have a place?
AAVE, not in the curriculum.
So I don't know that anybody's advocating for that.
Well, even as a teaching tool, I mean, maybe not as a concentrated class, but even as something to teach in the classroom setting, to say that you would use this language in this setting and then this language in another setting. I think the sole mission should be to just teach when standard English is appropriate and to teach that appropriate standard English and leave it at that.
You know, it is almost like these women, at least, they talk about Ebonics as if it makes you bilingual. They hold on to it as if it is an official, objectively unique language unto itself, not a bastardized corruption of the language. And you know, here's the real rub to it all. This is like, while we're talking about civilization and the intricacies of all this stuff, right? And this is why I kind of just noticed how anti-civilizational a lot of Black culture just is. Do you understand why slang is a thing in the first place? Do you understand why Black people use words? We twist and we corrupt words intentionally. Why we say stuff like, you feel me? And then we corrupt it further to you figure deal me. You understand why we say for shizzle, my nizzle? And no, you can say that it was born out of laziness, but take a guy like E40. E40 is the most prolific creator of bullshit Negro words I've ever seen. Like I need a fucking translator to listen to an E40 song, right? He just says things. And the reason why that whole behavior even became a thing in Black culture stems from one place and one place alone. Not crime exactly, Daniel, but the white man being the face of the police, right? It goes deeper than even crime. We had to create a language that the white people couldn't quite understand. That was basically the beginning of slang for Black folk. We had to say things in a way that the white folk wouldn't quite catch on to. And the entire evolution of slang stems from that tree, where we need words that it's English, it's, you know, it's the white man's words, but it's words that don't mean what the white man thinks they mean, right? Literally prison talk. It's fucking prison talk.
And what you learn at home and on the street, it's up to you to discern, but you didn't learn it here, and it's not to be used. Where you learn the language that's appropriate is where you'll learn where pro used.
So, Hemp, I'm gonna put in. Excuse me for interjecting. I'm gonna put some videos in the background.
I want to hear from you guys directly.
Okay, so to hear from me directly, we know that since 1997, the one school district that attempted and has used AAVE to help students has been in California, and they've seen a lot of success because it is a primary language. So when we talk about standard English versus AAVE, an example would be when we go to church, we all know "Guide me over, oh great Jehovah," but the way that we say it and the way that it's written, we understand "Guide me over, oh great Jehovah." It doesn't lose any essence if you say it standard or if you say it in AAVE.
Can you use another analogy?
You know what? Even her right now using the Bible is a great example of what I'm talking about, right? You remember that episode of Fresh Prince where Aunt Viv was the pro-Black history teacher, and she taught him the history of slave chants or whatever? Wade in the Water wasn't just a song about being baptized. It was a song to tell them to actually walk in the water so that they wouldn't leave footprints as they were escaping from the white man. The birth of slang, bro. It literally goes back to Black versus white.
Because I don't know that song.
You don't know "Got Me Over"? "Got Me Over, oh great Jehovah"?
No.
Okay. So let me find it. Let's pause that and leave it here. What my concern, especially with the Spanish speakers, are typically, and I'm in Texas, most Spanish speakers do not speak English in their homes. We may need to look at if they're taking ESL and they're having more time learning standard English, that may be why it's being impacted. So if we're saying we need to spend more time learning standard English within the school system, because if you're spending more dedicated time, then they're going to have a different level of mastery. Not that they're doing better because AAVE is dangerous, but because they are getting applied time to master the English language. And we know that ESL is beneficial. If it were not, then they wouldn't have it. So more than anything, if we would go ahead and
it's almost like they can't grasp how much of an L it really is that kids who speak a completely different language at home speak better English than your own kids on the same level, on the same grade level. They just don't want to hold the L, bro. This whole conversation is like a hot potato where nobody wants to hold the L.
Except what a lot of linguistics say, braces y'all, that AAVE is indeed a language. And
Black Aunt Viv, Raheem. It was the Black Aunt Viv.
When we go into standard education, we need to have more dedicated time because now we need to understand mastery. And what they've seen is when the teacher is fluent in AAVE and is able to change the conjunctions, as in we going to the store or fixing to, converse to I'm getting ready to, the teacher can say fixing to do what converts to, oh, I'm getting ready to. So we need to learn how to marry the cultures and not necessarily dismiss it, because there is a language that we're speaking. We have.
Trey with the 5 ball, he says that AAVE came from Scottish immigrants, bro. Grady McWhiney wrote in detail about this. I think also Thomas Sowell wrote about this as well. A lot of people don't really understand this, but the Scots-Irish in general were effectively the niggas of the white world. And so a lot of our rebellious culture is connected to them at its root, right? The rebellious nature, because the Irish and the Scots were essentially colonized and oppressed and brutalized by the crown for like ever. And a lot of our culture kind of stemmed from our time together on the farms, the plantations, and the fields and whatnot.
To honor that,
Shout out to
and
Trey.
then just say, how do we combat or enhance the students' experience with their native tongue and standardized English?
Yeah, and I think that's the point really quickly, that we simply have to have the kids recognize what's appropriate and when. So we're not teaching African American vernacular. We don't need to do that. The kids are well versed, right? They know that already. But like in the situation or in the example Tiff gave, the teacher would simply ask the student to say that in an academic way. I'm fixing to. What's an academic way to say that? How would you say that if you were speaking to, the mayor or the president, right? We have to put it in the right situation so kids understand.
How would you say that if you weren't a nigga? If you were anything but a nigga, how would you say that? It's almost that simple, right? It really feels like we're defending something that we really could just let go, and we'd be totally fine if we do that.
Understand the need to culture switch, right? It's perfectly okay to say fixing to. My grandma says that, my mom says that, all my aunts speak that way. So as a teacher, I'm not here to tell you don't speak your home language, but I am here to help you to understand how to transition that when you're speaking in more academic settings. And that's the work essentially.
So I guess my question now would be, who would need to learn to do that? I mean, that seems like something that you would be successful in doing in the home, right? It would be a great tutoring tool if, on an individual level, a teacher were able to make these correlations to be able to help them develop an understanding. But like, if you spoke to my children, they don't really speak much in the way of AAV. I don't think they would be as proficient in it as other children that may, benefit more from these correlations being made. But
yeah, your kids don't sound like the ghetto, and that's a great thing. I don't understand why the women cling to that as if it's like a cultural token worth holding on to.
Well, my question is, you said we have to, as if to say acquiesce to the existence of this language. And I'm like, well, who?
Well, but we're not acquiescing. The language is here. We're speaking it. We use it every day. Maybe not you particularly, right? But kids,
right.
Our students are coming to the school using AAVE.
So when
that's how they speak.
But and maybe I think Tiff use these words more frequently, but we have to. Who has to?
So I will say this, if we are going to say that we want to have better for kids and for the community, if we understand that there is a language barrier, who is it better to teach? The teacher that has influence with all of the students, or the parents that we know, if parents were up to code, we wouldn't have some of these issues. So if the
She just said the parents aren't up to code. Black moms are not up to code. We need to get OSHA in some of these houses, man. That's what the black family needs. The black family needs OSHA. You bitches not up to
How
code.
dare you say that we are not interested in families in the Black community?
To teach the teacher that has influence with all of the students, or the parents that we know, if parents were up to code, we wouldn't have some of these issues. So if the primary lessons are happening at school, then it behooves us to have a teacher that's well versed, that can serve the students. If you are in a demographic that's not necessary and those students don't need that, then there are other focuses. But if there are children that need to understand the conjugation, because typically AAVE is in a lot of past tense, which fix into I'm getting ready, a lot of past tense, or we drop and conjugate certain things, knowing the nuance. And instead of saying, oh, this kid can't read, it's, oh, they're speaking and interpreting a different language. Let me get you to say this in a standard English form. So
it's not a different language. It is a corruption of language. Calling it a different language is giving it too much credibility. It is a corruption. It is a bastardization of the language.
I, as a teacher, I'm informed. I make the connection, and then I bridge the gap for my students, because I thought that was the benefit of having a public education.
And you know, this is a quiet example of a nationwide phenomenon, a cultural wide phenomenon over the entire West, right? Back in the day, there were a lot more male teachers and male administrators just throughout the educational system, just because this is how it was back then. Men did most of the everything. And then over time, we got more and more women into the system, right? And as you get more and more women into the system, you have to change things to accommodate women. And one of the easiest ways to describe that is we have to soften every single possible every imaginable standard to accommodate women. And the women themselves, now they go on a mission of accommodation for the very students they're now in charge of. So instead of maintaining a set of rigorous standard across the board, we now just accommodate and we lower the standards all the way down.
Right?
So your answer to the question, who has to, is the teachers.
I think all of the teachers, anybody that's in education, especially primary, let's say K through 6.
So
let's answer the question. So we have to make sure we understand kind of who has the floor, right? So that person may ask a question, right? And then they have a response to said question. So at this juncture, what I'm listening to, I think Aaron has the floor. He's asking for clarifying questions. It's clarified. Ask the question again. We can get the direct answer, and then you can respond.
Yeah. So I think she did. The teachers. Yeah. Okay. So I guess the next question is: are you suggesting that we should incorporate into the curriculum required to become an English teacher or a language teacher the use of AAV? And if that's the case, then do we now include patois? Do we now include other, forms of English that you're going to find in these cities and that could be used in kind of a juxtaposing fashion that, Dr. G is suggesting. But I'm just saying, do you understand the precedent that sets? And does that cloud muddy the water away from it already being over, I think?
No, I think it's based on demographics. So based on demographics. So like in Texas, there is a need for ESL because we have a heavy population of Spanish speakers. In Dallas, it's not so much, but if you live in RGV, Rio Grande Valley, you have to be bilingual because a large number of your students are going to be Spanish speakers. So what they've done to accommodate these students is they have teachers that are bilingual. Because
why do we keep comparing this to Spanish speakers? It's like you're telling us that kids born in the ghetto, kids born in Mississippi, kids born in Chicago, kids born in Philadelphia, they need English as a second language. Like we used to actually teach the kids Spanish. Now we have to teach the kids English.
that's the need of the students. If you're going to work in an environment where AAV is the primary language, then yes, that teacher should be proficient in the language that the students are talking.
All right, here's my issue with that. Now I'm willing to spread
I think teachers anywhere need to know the culture that they're teaching in. See, that's the primary issue here. We have teachers who are teaching our kids and don't have any idea about the students who sit before them. But go ahead, Aaron.
So to address what Tiff just said, my issue with that is in an environment where you have ESL, you're teaching a second language to a student that already knows a language that eventually is going to be offered later on in the educational process in the curriculum anyway, and it's Spanish. It's also the fourth most commonly spoken language in the world, and it has its.
Now this is a long conversation, so we're gonna skip ahead quite a bit. I suspect that as the conversation goes, these two very polite gentlemen, their frustration will build.
It's not black and white.
Why?
It's not a black and white situation when we're dealing with children. And I think that's what it's hard to just be able to take one piece out because we keep talking about test scores.
One point of clarification.
Huh?
One point of clarification. Are you saying that grammar is not black and white?
I'm saying that I think it's more complex than just a black and white thing.
So let me ask you a question. Are you saying that grammar is not black and white?
Okay, grammar itself is black and white, yes. But I think what happens is it's not a simple fix because like I keep saying, okay, everyone comes in speaking proper English. Our test scores still are not going to fly high. That's not happening.
How do you make that statement?
Because there's so many different factors that goes into the reasons why that happens, that they can speak proper English, but maybe they don't have the amount of vocabulary words that are needed. They can say 5 words correctly. They can say, I want to eat. That's proper English. They're coming in with that, but that doesn't mean they have the robust vocabulary that is needed. Or they have,
a fourth grader you said speaking proper English, right? Which means the phonetics go with that, right? Because if you have words on a piece of paper, but you say fixing at your house all the time, you don't have the identification tool, right? And I just don't understand how teachers, people who are expert.
And I think these women are all educators, by the way, because, girls like to teach. We shouldn't let them teach.
Can't see this for playing for what it is. And when I looked up the thing, 52% of black children in 4th grade read at a deficient level, while 45% of Hispanics in 4th grade read at a deficient level. And
it's crazy because I've been talking about that kind of thing for a couple of years now. And it's like they just finally got around to noticing that, after all the DP conversations, all the black love talk, all the sex talk, they finally got around to, hey, did you notice that these kids are illiterate? What's up with that?
And I just can't believe that we continue to say this and we don't have any results to back it up. And we want to continue to talk about nuance as opposed to putting pressure on things that need to be put pressure on, like the parents, like the teachers. But
how would you suggest we pressure parents?
Reinforce, right? So the actual homework that goes home, right? And when it doesn't get done.
She asked that question kind of indignantly too. Like I dare you say so, do something, nigga. I dare you.
How would you suggest we pressure parents?
Reinforce, right? So the actual homework that goes home, right? And when it doesn't get done and it's not correct, teachers don't call, teachers don't care. I've heard teachers talk and say as much about they don't care, right? And then y'all complaining about the money that y'all not getting.
Okay, Hemp, hold on. You putting too much.
Yeah, Hemp is getting a little bit upset with all of these educational women. Y'all all work as educators. Y'all be asking for all of this extra money. Y'all be saying y'all don't get this, y'all don't get that. The kids ain't getting educated. So what's up with that? You can read, but the babies can't. What's up with that? Get them, Hannah.
Layers on it. My
Dr.
question
Watson
was,
put a bunch of layers on it. Dr. Jean, you didn't say anything. She said something about it's the teachers, and then the mom is working hard, and then the
And
dad
that's
got
what
a
I'm
budgie.
addressing. I'm addressing the.
Hold on, wait, Dr. G, take this walk with me. Dr. Watson said a whole bunch. The mom got 6 jobs. Who the fuck? She don't get tired. I heard that song, right? I know who Kevin Gates is. She can't fool me with that. But she added all this stuff in that we're not talking about.
But we are talking about it. You all want to lay it at the feet of the parents, and nobody is disagreeing with that, right? My question to you is, the parents aren't doing it, so now what?
No, that's not that.
If the parents aren't doing it, it won't get done properly. Not at the numbers that you want. Because now you're asking teachers to do what should be parents' jobs. Like, you have to make sure your kids maintain the boundaries of behavior. You have to keep your kids on task. If you don't actually reinforce the standards that your teacher is putting out for the children, there's only so much the teacher can do. It's not like the teacher can spank the kids, you know? Not anymore. I think I was a part of the last generation that actually had corporal punishment in school.
That's not how solutions work, right? See,
No, Hemp, listen, I'm trying to get you to understand that we still have a
Dr.
job
G,
to
there's
do.
very little I misunderstand.
Well, it's not that you misunderstood it. Maybe it was me, right?
You
But
said
what
you're
I'm trying to be
get me
clear about, huh?
You said you're trying to get me to understand. That's why I said that.
Oh, okay. My bad. I misspoke. What I'm trying to be clear about is we still have a job to do. The teachers, the kids are coming to us this way. We're not creating this. This is already happening, right? This is what's happening. And educational professionals and theorists have tried to reconcile what's already happening, right? Not that we're creating it. We're trying to create strategies and protocols and ways so that students can get what it is that they need. To simply say it's on the parents, that doesn't give educators anything. And another point that Dr. Watson made was that it's so many different layers to this. There is no system in America that has worked out for Black men, Black boys, Black people. Every system in this country is somehow disenfranchising Blackness. Why would we expect anything different from education? Education is the one.
Now you are representatives of the goddamn system, though. That's the thing that just kills me. Like, you bitches are the fucking system. Oh, I hate the system. So that if I hate the system, that means I have to hate you by extension. And then they'd be like, "Oh, you hate Black women." Oh, I'm so confused. Come on, man. What do you expect me to do here? You bitches are the goddamn system, man. This is exactly what I was trying to explain. I told that shit to Taz one day. I'm like, bro, they are the government. What do you mean fight the government? The government is them. What do you mean? The system is them. They are the system, and the system is them. I have met the enemy, and it's that bitch.
One field that could actually liberate. Why would it not be a part of the system that all these other systems, judicial, medical, you know what I'm saying? Like,
let me get this, Aaron, right? I also want us to be very mindful of what we're saying about our people and our culture, right? They are not adept. They cannot service or help their kids. They can't reinforce standard English and grammar at their houses. So now what, right?
Because I didn't say that. I said it's not happening.
Whoa. Calm down now, Hamp. Calm down, Hamp.
How dare you say that we are not interested in families in the Black community?
You gotta slow your roll, bro. You got 3 queens on the panel, Hamp. I need you to chill. You gotta slow your roll for bad things happen up in here.
I didn't say they couldn't.
Now, here's the thing about decorum, right? I'm just telling you, right? This is the second time I called it out. Okay, I'm just saying, but I just want us to hear it. The parents can't do it. The parents can't help us. The parents will not. So now what? Right? That was what was posing me. Aaron, I'm bugging.
I don't know.
I just want us to realize. I just want us to realize. You have opportunity. I just want us to realize what we saying about our people.
I never said couldn't. I never said couldn't.
You said they're not?
I said it's not happening. Whether they can or can't, the end result is it's not happening.
So now what?
All right. It's not that we can't, we just won't. I don't know what makes it worse, right? Which one is worse? I don't know if we can't, but we won't.
Right.
Right. And so it's on the teachers now to try to make up the difference.
I know what I'm doing.
You know, I know, like intimately, I know this frustration. Years ago, oh my God, when we first had the opportunity, it wasn't an argument, but I kept bringing this shit up, and this bitch kept disagreeing with me because she didn't want to do the extra little work. But I'm like, yo, take our kids out of this PS whatever and put them in this charter school. The charter school's like right down the block. It's only a little bit, it's a couple minutes longer walk, but it's like right there. Let's put them in the charter school. And it just, oh God, bitch did not want to take the extra walk. She did not want to do the extra work. And I the frustration that they're feeling, that Hamp and Aaron are going through right now, I feel like I bet you these are conversations. These are like the push-pulls that happen in the Black family all the time, where it's like the men are just trying to explain basic, simple things, and the women just like, well, I don't feel like it. I don't want to. And it's like, bitch, we have to live in the real world. You know that, right? There's things that we could be doing that are better for all of us. That's don't want to.
It's 260 people here, right? So I love all of y'all, right? I'm talking to y'all. But I also want us to understand what we saying our people are incapable of, or at the very least unwilling to do, right? We don't have the results. They haven't stepped in. So now the teachers got to do all the heavy lifting, right? That just shows what it says about our people. We don't have no faith.
We don't have what?
Faith in us being to help our children.
That's not true. And that's not what I'm articulating anyway. I've never, ever diminished us as a people. I'm simply looking at the facts of the matter. That's it. I'm looking at the raw facts.
I get it.
Sure, perhaps it should happen at home. Absolutely. Parents are responsible for what they create. Their children, their debt, everything that they create, they're responsible for. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. What we have to do, however, is service what shows up. That's what we do as educators. We deal with what shows up.
You correct.
And so whether parents can or absolutely, I'm teaching children how to matriculate into society. They can't do it speaking their home language. So I teach them standard.
So have you ever listen, Dr. G, you know what I ain't gonna do for $45,000 is raise your kids. Go ahead, Aaron.
What?
Have you ever damn son. That's kind of what you're asking the teachers to do. It's like you want the teachers to be part of the extended parenthood. Like the teacher is not a half a parent. They're not an invisible party and an invisible partner in this family, you know? You have to raise your kids better and then send them off to the teacher so the teacher doesn't have to start at ground zero with your children every day.
I missed it. It went over my head.
Nah. Them braids is up high enough. They caught right there. Right? Got caught on that bun in the back.
I don't know.
I'm trying to be serious. Don't make me like, you know what I mean?
All right.
Like, you know exactly.
It's all good.
For 50 G's, I gotta teach your kid how to wipe his ass. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I got you.
Yeah, shout out to Ash, man. I got 99 solutions and a bitch ain't one. Hit me.
What black community? It's a black environment with black women and black children in it.
I got you. No, but Ham, this is the work, honestly. It's the work. And that's why people are not beating down the door to go into education. It's a thankless profession.
Somebody else talk, Dr. G.
Absolutely. I'd be happy to. Listen, y'all, I've been doing this for more than half of my life. This is my jam. I'm passionate. I'm not even saying I have all the answers. I'm not even saying I have all the answers. I appreciate Ashley and Dr. Watson's perspective, right? As fellow educators. I appreciate parents and what they do to prepare their children for us, because the more parents that get on board with what you're saying, makes our job easier, right? So of course I'm a proponent for that. I'm just speaking to what we're actually dealing with rather than what we would like to be.
I got you. Go ahead, Aaron. I done interject, cut you off 3 times. I'm acting like Dr. G and Tiff. My bad.
It's all good. I've had the fortunate opportunity to teach some Japan and Korea English. They had no idea what to teach them English was very simple.
You had to start over. You breaking up. Almost your
cellular
entire
device. I've had the opportunity to teach kids in Japan and Korea English, and they knew nothing. So when you go, look, say, konnichiwa, no, hello. And you just keep writing now, understand, oh, and it's really that simple to make the corrections, especially if the teachers are teaching from a foundation starting in pre-K, where kids really are learning English in school. What you do at home is what you do at home, but when you come to school, you come and speak standard. That's what we're here to teach. That's what you're going to learn. And if you get deviation from that, you simply correct back to it. I don't understand why there has to be a cultural awareness on behalf of the teacher to make that correction. I did very little relative cultural knowledge of Koreans and Japanese. I went over to Seoul and Tokyo and taught kids how to count from 1 to 10, say hello, goodbye, good evening, good afternoon.
Think about what he's trying to explain to her, right? As a Black man, he needed no cultural sensitivity to teach foreign children. He was probably doing it on Skype or some shit. He's teaching foreign children how to speak English and giving them standard English rules and definitions, and they get it perfectly. But you Black women, you are arguing that you somehow can't do that for the very Black children that you are kind of sort of connected to, right? Like we all Black together theoretically. It's amazing.
Good morning.
Yeah.
You don't. So why do you need it? I mean, it's the well.
I agree with you. I agree. I think that's what happens is when you're able to understand this is how we do it in this classroom versus when we're doing it somewhere else. So I agree with you.
Yeah, if we start pre-K and hold the line, and I think the parents that come to the school, the ones that do care, they will be at the PTA. They will see, and it will help their kid, and that parent help parent other kids because they're going to interact with other kids from that school after hours, right? Birthday parties, kids come over, blah blah blah, and the parents, if they see that kind of effort in school and they take it home because they don't want their kids to lose all, and them come, oh, you speak properly in this house. So can the kids that come in this house with them.
I think it's a little bit more complex. It's simple, but it's more complex than the way he's approaching it, I think. Put it to you like this, right? Let's look at the welfare state and this idea of a moral hazard, right? If you have an environment where the success of the family is kind of low-key tied to the academic success of, you know, the children, generally speaking. Like, you have to work hard and achieve, you have to strive, as opposed to a system where, you know, like, you can pass your Section 8 benefits, you can pass your government, your project house apartment or whatever, you can pass that down to your daughter, your offspring. So you don't necessarily have to go out and strive. I think if you kind of tweak the environment a little bit, where the idea of your own survival being in your hands was a little bit more paramount, you could effectively approach this problem on autopilot. People would just do better.
You reverse the process at home. The kid can come home and teach the parents something. Parents are not above learning from children. Mom, it's not he, it's he is. Be, being, been, were different as I were. Well, I don't care. He be tripping. Mom, you're tripping. I'll be
If
tripping
the child
sometimes
can do
too.
that,
No, you
Aaron,
are.
then the problem is solved. If the child can do what you're suggesting, problem solved.
But the child can do what we're suggesting if the teaching at school is as strict and stringent as possible and as simple as possible. I'm talking about science. He was talking.
Now, I think what Aaron is trying to explain to the ladies is that if you women, as educators, you're saying that, well, this is just how the children are. They come in a certain way, and we have to meet them where they are. Okay, fine. The solution is not to lower the standard. You do not lower yourself to where the child is. You maintain the level. You maintain that rigid standard and be that kind of funnel to, well, not funnel, but you help raise that child up to that standard. Because if you lower the standard to meet the child where he is, then he'll never actually meet the standard he's supposed to be at the time he's supposed to meet it.
He was speaking. Let us converse. Let's have a conversation.
Ash, you there?
I could tell how the women are looking away from the camera right now. I can hear the exact thought in their head. You just dried up all the pussy. I can hear it in they I can see it in their face right now as he's talking. He's speaking all properly and erudite. They don't want to hear that shit.
Let's have a conversation.
Ash, you there?
The sound of 1,000 coochies drying up.
We really want to figure this out, right? So here's the let's say the things that make sense what you guys presented, right? Understanding the demographic in which you serve, right? Now, I think people run the risk of trying to be too relevant, right? People can come off corny, right? But at the very least, just understanding the baseline, you know? But I think it's very important that teachers are in control and determine and designate what happens in their classroom, right?
Absolutely.
Things that are incorrect need to be corrected, right? And it gives me cause for pause when I hear us saying, giving slight credence to a thing that is incorrect to the majority because they have to exist in this society, right? And when I'm assessing things that we can assess that are on paper, right? Like what Dr. Watson said, the homes are broken, the money is less, you know? And then we look at the test scores. When we're trying to have kids diagnose when and where, we don't have great success rates. And I think that that's the thing that we really have to overcorrect. And I think the teachers are plagued with having to do that. You guys have to be overt in the correction. You have to be absolute because you are the only place in which they're getting it from. You know, and I fear we run the risk of giving things credence that don't need any.
And this is a fundamental problem. It's a very gender specific problem. As a rule, women don't really maintain standards of a thing. They kind of like, you know, do whatever they feel. And so it's very easy for this group of women to kind of understand the argument of standards and whatnot, but ultimately do exactly what they feel.
And I would say it goes, a lot of it also happens. I know, like, we know a lot of our kids are underperforming by a long shot. But if they don't have the consistency in grade levels, they're just getting pushed to the side. So if you don't have an educator that is wholeheartedly vested in making those corrections, identifying those corrections, and seeing, meeting them where they are, this is why they're getting pushed along. But you have to make sure, so like, I can speak for myself. I have my 8th graders. I've had them since 6th grade. And because I've had them, I can see the consistency in the growth, and I can see the achievement. But when I get those incoming 6th graders, I can see where those gaps have started. And now I'm playing catch up because it wasn't done prior to. So trying to get parents involved, I would say wholeheartedly, when they're older, it's like pulling teeth. It's hard for them to even get the buy-in. When the students are at a younger age, parents are more involved. So it's an easier catch and an easier fix, rather than when they're in middle school, getting ready to transition to high school, which we're getting them ready for the real world more so. But the foundation, it's a lot of gray areas where when they get to the middle school, which is kind of their core more so, we're playing catch up. And that's where, if you're not reading on grade level at 3rd grade, the statistics, it's hard to play catch up. So me getting them at 6th grade, that's a 3-year gap. And usually when they get to me, if in 6th grade, if they're still reading at a 3rd grade level.
Yeah.
Or
You know what's so interesting about watching these conversations? Like, because I kind of just, accept, harsh truths about certain things. And I see these people inside of, quote, blackness, attempting to figure it out. And it's all kind of really simple. And they're struggling. It seems like they're again trying to find every other solution but the simplest, obvious thing, which is, when you keep saying these parents, you're mostly talking about women, single moms. And so the heart of the issue goes back to the home, which is mostly a single parent, dysfunctional home. And your apprehension about speaking bluntly and directly about that is literally because it's that. And right now in America, and even in Black America too, but America broadly speaking, we have some obvious issues with just the entrenchment of the female position. And we can argue and make all the logical points we want to make, but I think women instinctively understand that the correction that is required would also mean some type of restriction on them. Therefore, they're never gonna just get it in a mass way. Like Miss Cantrell, she says it really simply: men are better at holding standards. Children listen to men better, right? Which is not to say that you don't want any female teachers, but I think earlier we made note, teachers used to be married, they used to be older, and we used to have a decent amount of men in the building as well. It wasn't just a bunch of women all over the place. And so now we got to the point where, like I said, the female and the female position is just well entrenched, and they really can't be talked out of it. Like, I want to jump to the part of the conversation that they re-released as they're short here. Well, not short, but their own edited video. And this is kind of toward the tail end of it, I think.
That the teachers who land these jobs in these communities need to understand where they are and what their students bring to the table. And then they need to do their job of teaching standard American English.
I'm all about that. Be culturally aware of where you are and teach American English. Or teach standard academic English.
So that students know how to culture switch when they need to. Yes.
Okay, if they see fit for that, but I don't think that's a responsibility of the teacher. The responsibility of the teacher needs to do exactly what you said. Be culturally aware, know thine audience, teach the language. Because if to say know when to culture switch, what if I don't want to culture? You know what I mean? Like I never wanted to culture
then you
switch.
don't want to. Well, then you don't want to. Well, it's not culture switching from standard to AAVE. We're teaching the kids to go the other way so that they can go out into the world and speak in a way where they can be recognized, acknowledged, get the job, get the college, get, whatever it is, right?
I don't think you understand what you are by default saying about the culture. If you have to switch off the culture in order to cooperate to achieve things in the real world, then your culture is oppositional to the real fucking world. This is something that I had to understand intimately as I became a full man. The way we were raised was all stupid. We were raised poorly, bro. It just is what it is. I was telling a story the other day. Like I was having this conversation with a friend years and years ago. Like, bro, you know what? We were just raised wrong. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, we were just raised wrong. We were raised to be in the ghetto, which is to be raised wrong.
Right? We want them to be able to have that common language so that they can matriculate through society. But they can do that without giving up their home language. They don't have to give up their home language to do that.
So we don't have to tell them they have to give it up or not.
Let me ask a question. So I'm fixing. Do you have to denounce I'm fixing in order for them to learn their proper way to say I'm about to, I'm going to? How do you do you have to speak emphatically against it, saying this is incorrect? This is how you would form that sentence. Do you have to do that in order for the child to learn?
Well, yeah.
I don't believe so.
Okay, and I'm seeing an issue. It's at the home, and apparently it's at the schools too. Because what you guys think relatability is you're leading people down a path in which that they're not able to recover from like you think they are. This whole code switching thing, they're not at that point. They don't understand it well. And the reason why we look at the test scores is because we can see the understanding and it's lacking. And I just don't understand what you guys are trying to promote. So I be talking, or what would you say to he coming? What were the sentences? Don't you have to say that's incorrect? Here's the correct way to say it.
No. You can say he funny. Okay.
Notice they all said no to the idea of telling the children that your way of speaking is incorrect. Flat out, fundamentally wrong. There's an unwillingness to actually tell the children right from wrong.
Okay. Yes.
That's wrong.
No.
Well, hold on.
You see what just happened there?
You say that's, or what would you say to he coming? What were the sentences? Don't you have to say that's incorrect? Here's the correct way to say it.
No. You can say he funny. Okay. Yes.
That's wrong.
No.
Well, hold on. All right, I'm talking now, right? I don't want anybody to answer me in on a diatribe. I'm just setting the stage so you guys understand, right? So here's what I'm saying. He be talking, right? He's talking, he is talking. He be talking is incorrect. Isn't that how you would teach that or reinforce it? Or are you saying you justify saying you can speak grammatically incorrect in your house, but in front of people, at school, in front of somebody you deem important, you have to speak grammatically correct. Is that how you would how would you do that?
I wouldn't necessarily.
Notice what he just said, right? If it was somebody that you deem as important, then you would speak grammatically correct, right? Which is to say that we don't see each other as important enough to speak proper English to. You just a nigga. Why am I even trying so hard?
Even address what's being spoken in the house. I'm hearing
Why?
the child's because I'm hearing the child speak, so I know what's being spoken in the house. The
So no,
child is
but you're
speaking,
saying
and
that
that
you're
tells
letting
me
you're saying that you're letting it live, right? So what how does this
no.
conversation go?
So the child say, "I be fixing," or whatever the case is.
No.
My
This is the one I want. I want he be talking. Let's
he be
address that.
talking. He be
Yeah.
talking.
Mhm.
So I would first help the child to understand what the perpetual be is. It implies time, always. So he be talking is essentially saying he's talking all the time, right? So I want the child to understand the grammatical part of it. And then I ask them, how would you say that in academic language? How would you change he be talking
Uh-huh.
into an academic sentence or statement?
So you don't let them know that they said it incorrectly.
They said it incorrectly for the situation that we're in, yes, but
So
it's
you're
not
saying
wrong.
so you're saying
They said it correctly for the situation that they were in, which is, their home or just around, other black people. So incorrect English is correct for black people, is generally what she's arguing right now. How many papers on the wall do you see behind this lady here? Girl, you better. Because they have that phrase, the paper on the wall, Negro. And these don't appear to be like, postcards and letters from children. It just seems to me like you've accomplished too much to talk this stupidly.
And I can't shut up. I wish I could. I really wish I could shut the fuck up, but I can't.
grammar, right? If they write
Standard academic grammar, yes.
academic grammar, right? That's
Academic.
accepted overwhelmingly. You wouldn't say to that student that you said that incorrectly. Here's the
I would
understanding about B. Here's why. Here's like you wouldn't correct it in that way.
I don't need to tell the child that his home language is wrong or incorrect.
And this is coming from the mouth of an educator. She's an educational professional. She be educating.
How do it equivalate?
You wouldn't say to that student that you said that incorrectly. Here's the understanding about B. Here's why. Here's like you wouldn't correct it in that way.
And by not telling the child that one of these behaviors, one of these applications is definitively incorrect, you are now allowing the child to engage in what is otherwise known as doublethink, to hold two opposing ideas in your head at the same time. That I be talking is just the same as, just as valid, it's equivalent to, it equivalates with I am talking, I speak. Hey, look, I know it's difficult. I know it's difficult, but this is why we're here, to understand, to learn. Earlier, I tried not to, but this is what I was referring to earlier when I said, you want me to hate the system, but you bitches are the goddamn system. I don't even think you understand what you asking me to do right now.
I don't need to tell the child that his home language is wrong or incorrect. I don't
And
need to do that.
okay, and you're
All I need
saying
to
that
do is help the child. All I need to do is help the child
yeah.
to know how to say it properly when in that situation.
Okay, so they get to speak grammatically incorrect at home, right, based on standard English, and then
Well,
everywhere else, and you're saying that they're supposed to discern when or
get
not to use their home language.
well
Home
get to him like that. That's what they're speaking. They're coming to us already with this language.
So why is there no correction as teachers? And this is why, and
I
now
just
I'm
gave
starting
you
to,
the correction.
no, I'm starting to see it more and more, right? Coaches don't actually do that, right? That's why we're more effective. Now I'm understanding it, right?
Yeah, yes, coaches, because coaching tends to be a male thing. It's male oriented. You know, athletics in general is male oriented because it's about individual performance. Even teams measure things on an individual performance level. And now you see, as a coach, you understand what's wrong with teachers because the teachers are just, you know, girls. You know, I'm just a girl.
So what
Well, you
happened
thought that
then?
anyway.
Well, no, I'm seeing it now, especially, right? Because you give credence to things that don't deserve any credence, right? So
What
when
credence did
kids
I
do,
give?
I'm gonna finish talking and then you can retort. Right? Let's do it like that now.
Okay, all right.
So when I'm coaching,
Said I'm over this non-teaching bitch. I'm so over your non-teaching ass. If you don't shut the fuck up with your non-educating ass, I'm gonna talk now. You just be wasting your words and shit.
deserve any credence, right? So
What
when
credence did
kids
I
do,
give?
I'm gonna finish talking and then you can retort. Right? Let's do it like that now.
Okay, all right.
So when I'm coaching a kid, right, in terms of a technique, right, I teach the technique. He don't get to add nuance because his nuance is incorrect, right? It's leading him down a bad path. You understand? When the kids are sagging, not speaking, not saying yes sir, no sir, you correct that so that they don't perpetuate that poor behavior, right? So I don't say you can go sag in front of your mommy. No, you don't sag your pants because that's not what men do. But y'all are giving so much credence to things that have no value. And then we expect for the kids to be successful. That doesn't make any sense. And then we start complaining about systemic things. This is a systemic thing that we're addressing.
You bitches are the goddamn system. What did I just tell you? Thank you, Hamp. You have finally caught up. One day you're going to make it to the boss level and you will understand the totality of it all. True Hype with the 5 ball. He says academic language equals speaking correctly / properly. Now, isn't the point of language to communicate properly and effectively, which helps you through life? Exactly. And this is why Negroes be struggling, because they just can't communicate effectively.
And I can't shut up. I wish I could. I really wish I could shut the fuck up, but I can't.
Bruh. You bitches complaining about systemic issues when you are literally agents of and representatives of the system. You know, we talk about this a lot, you know, the school to prison pipeline. As teachers, right? What do you think your role is in the school to prison pipeline? As educational professionals, right? As bitches that be educating and shit. What is your role in the school to prison pipeline? Have you ever considered that? You know, since we're talking about systemic systems of systematized, systematic shit, what is your role? What have you done? Because I've been saying it for a long time, man. You niggas up here trying to fight the power. You trying to fight the system. The system is Keisha, bro. The system is your mama. It's your auntie. It's your ex-girlfriend. And it's your baby mama. It's the girl driving the bus. It's the lady cop. It's the female judge, bro. The system is all of them. They are the system now. Can't be bargained with. Can't be reasoned with. And they absolutely will not stop, ever. And so every one of your kids are gay and retarded. Trader MBD with the 5 ball. He says, Hood, did it drive you nuts when white people are astounded at how eloquent your kids speak and behave? No. It's all quite normal, I think. It bothers me when black people do that. That's really when it's weird. It's weird when black people notice how bright and well managed your children are. It's like, oh, are yours not? Huh, that's so interesting.
Oh, you don't sag your pants because that's not what men do. But y'all are giving so much credence to things that have no value, and that we expect for the kids to be successful. That doesn't make any sense. And then we start complaining about systemic things. This is a systemic thing that we're addressing, right? Systematically, we didn't have education, but systemically, we are perpetuating this thing that does not help us. And I just don't understand. I digress. Go ahead, Dr. G. Not digress, because I want to stay on the conversation, but I'm gonna be quiet.
Well, I think that when you're comparing it to football, I think it's a very like simple thing. You either do this
I didn't say
correctly
anything
or
about
you
football.
do it wrong. Like
I
it's
didn't
like
say
that.
anything about football.
Well, didn't you just give an example of someone sagging their pants or things of that nature?
Not
That was
football.
your, huh?
That's not football.
Well, what was your example?
Coaching.
Well, I'm saying, well, when you're coaching, there's a standard. There's a this is right and it's a black and white situation. And when we're coming into this, it's not black and white.
Why?
It's not a black and white situation when we're dealing with children. And I think that's what
Your teacher, you're literally part of your job is to teach colors, right? I mean, if you can't even get the colors right, how are we ever gonna move on to abstract concepts and shit? If we can't even master black and white, how the fuck are we supposed to teach theoretical concepts like justice and shit like that? Oh God. Oh man, it hurts so bad. But it hurts so bad. Oh man. She's like, it's not black and white. Like, you're literally a teacher, little. What do you mean? Black and white is like step one of teaching children. That is like the first thing children learn, black and white. Every teaching foundation, every concept of teaching is literally built on black and white. One thing is not like the other. You have this and then you have that. Some things are black, some things are white. And then there are a whole bunch of other colors too. None of them are black, nor are they white. They're their own color. It's like, bro, we're still on black and white. We can't. Now it all makes sense. Now it all makes sense, bro. No, there isn't a standard teaching. There isn't even a real black and white. You might actually be gray, Snowman. There is no black and white. Everything is just a set of infinite feelings.
but it's hard to just be able to take one piece out because we keep talking about test scores.
One
We
point of
keep always-
clarification.
Huh?
One point of clarification. Are you saying that grammar is not black and white?
I'm saying that I think it's more complex than just a black and white
So
thing.
let me ask you a question. Are you saying that grammar is not black and white?
Okay, grammar itself is black and white, yes.
Notice he had to ask it like 3 times. Where are you going when he asks you these questions? Like your mind traveled a bit and then you came back with an answer from a different galaxy. Like, what were you thinking about?
This is right and it's a black and white situation. And when we're coming into this, it's not black and white.
Why?
It's not a black and white situation when we're dealing with children. And I think that's what it's hard to just be able to take one piece out because we keep talking about test scores.
One
We
point of
keep always-
clarification.
Huh?
One point of clarification. Are you saying that grammar is not black and white?
I'm saying that I think it's more complex than just a black and white
So
thing.
let me ask you a question. Are you saying that grammar is not black and white?
Okay, grammar itself is black and white, yes.
I literally said this on air the other day, and it's crazy how real this is, right? And that's his wife. That's hilarious that it's his wife. But this is a natural thing between men and women, I've noticed. As men, we cannot just ask you a question and then you answer directly and succinctly the first time and then get it and knock it out the park the first time. When it comes to these kind of weighted discussions that you get into the nuance of things, we have to ask you a question at minimum 3 times. He's lucky he came out on the 3rd time. This could have went 4, 5, 6 rounds. It's weird. I noticed over and over you have to ask a question multiple times before you get to a concrete, definitive answer. Because before that, it's like she was going through a set of feelings. And we just have to peel back the layers of feelings before we get to a reality.
But I think what happens is it's not a simple fix because like I keep saying, okay, everyone comes in speaking proper English. Our test scores still are not gonna fly high. That's not happening.
How do you make that statement?
Because there's so many different factors that goes into the reasons why that happens, that they can speak proper English, but maybe they don't have the amount of vocabulary words that are needed. They can say 5 words correctly. They can say, I want to eat. That's proper English. They're coming in with that, but that doesn't mean they have the robust vocabulary that is needed. Or they have,
a 4th grader, you said speaking proper English, right? Which means the phonetics go with that, right? Because if you have words on a piece of paper, but you say fixing at your house all the time, you don't have the identification tools, right? And I just don't understand how teachers, people who are expert, can't see this for playing for what it is. And when I looked up the thing, 52% of Black children in 4th grade read at a deficient level, while 45% of Hispanics in 4th grade read at a deficient level. And I just can't believe that we continue to say this and we don't have any results to back it up. And we want to continue to talk about nuance as opposed to putting pressure on things that need to be put pressure on, like the parents, like the teachers.
You want to put pressure on the parents and the teachers. You must hate Black women, man. That's really what's going on here. You hate Black women.
Oh man, hate.
DJ Hampton finally revealed it, y'all. The mask has dropped. He hate Black women.
How would you suggest we pressure parents?
Reinforce, right? So the actual homework that goes home, right? And when it doesn't get done and it's not correct, teachers don't call. Teachers don't care. I've heard teachers talk and say much about they don't care, right? And then y'all complaining about the money that y'all not getting.
Okay, Hemp, hold on. You putting too much. You putting too many layers on it. My question
Dr. Watson
was,
put a bunch of layers on it. Dr. Jean, you didn't say anything. She said something about it's the teachers, and then the mom is working hard, and then the
and
dad
that's what I'm addressing. I'm addressing the.
Hold on, wait, Dr. G, take this walk with me. Dr. Watson said a whole bunch. The mom got 6 jobs. Who the fuck? She don't get tired. I heard that song, right? I know who Kevin Gates is. She can't fool me with that. But she added all this stuff in that we're not talking about.
But we are talking about it. You all want to lay it at the feet of the parents, and nobody is disagreeing with that, right? My question to you is, the parents aren't doing it, so now what?
No, that's not how solutions work, right? See,
No, Hemp, listen, I'm trying to get you to understand that we still have a job to do.
Very little I misunderstand.
Well, it's not that you misunderstood it. Maybe it was me, right? But what I'm trying to be clear about,
You said you're trying to get me to understand. That's why I said that.
Oh, okay. My bad. I misspoke. Okay. What I'm trying to be clear about is we still have a job to do. The teachers, the kids are coming to us this way. We're not creating this. This is already happening, right? This is what's happening. And educational professionals and theorists have tried to reconcile what's already happening, right? Not that we're creating it, we're trying to create strategies and protocols and ways so that students can get what it is that they need. To simply say it's on the parents, that doesn't give educators anything. And another point that Dr. Watson made was that it's so many different layers to this. There is no system in America that has worked out for Black men, Black boys, Black people. Every system in this country is somehow disenfranchising Blackness. Why would we expect anything different from education? Education is the one field that could actually liberate. Why would it not be a part of the system that all these other systems, judicial, medical, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Are Black women not in these positions? Are Black women not teachers, doctors, lawyers, judges, nurses? Might not be a lot of Black female doctors, but there's a fuck ton of Black female nurses out there. There we go, blaming the system.
Let me get this, Aaron, right? I also want us to be very mindful of what we're saying about our people and our culture. Right? They are not adept. They cannot service or help their kids. They can't reinforce standard English and grammar at their houses. So now what? Right?
Because I didn't say that. I said it's not happening. I didn't say they couldn't.
Now, here's the thing about decorum, right? I'm just telling you, right? This is the second time I called it out. Okay, I'm just saying, but I just want us to hear it. The parents can't do it. The parents can't help us. The parents will not. So now what? Right? That was what was posing me. Aaron, I'm bugging.
I don't know.
I just want us to realize. I just want us to realize. You have opportunity. I just want us to realize what we're saying about our people.
I never said couldn't. I never said couldn't.
You said they're not?
I said it's not happening. Whether they can or can't, the end result is it's not happening.
So now what, right?
Right. And so it's on the teachers now to try to make up the difference.
What I'm doing is 260 people here, right?
But the teachers can't do it though. Right? If they could, they would, but the teachers can't do it. There's only so much teachers can do. All they can do is teach, actually.
I love all of y'all, right? I'm talking to y'all. But I also want us to understand.
And they're probably not even doing much teaching at this point anyway, so.
What we saying our people are incapable of.
So if she wanted to, she would.
Right? We don't have the results. They haven't stepped in, so now the teachers got to do all the heavy lifting, right? That just shows what it says about our people. We don't have no faith.
We don't.
And now these same women are probably upset about Charlie Kirk, but here they are kind of proving his points about, his criticisms about the community, isn't he?
Have what?
Faith in us being to help our children.
That's not true. And that's not what I'm articulating anyway. I've never, ever diminished us as a people. I'm simply looking at the facts of the matter. That's it. I'm looking at the raw facts.
I get it.
Sure, perhaps it should happen at home. Absolutely. Parents are responsible for what they create. Their children, their debt, everything that they create, they're responsible for. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. What we have to do, however, is service what shows up. That's what we do as educators. We deal with what shows up.
You correct.
And so whether parents can or absolutely, I'm teaching children how to matriculate into society. They can't do it speaking their home language. So I teach them standard.
So have you ever listen, Dr. G, you know what I ain't gonna do for $45,000 is raise your kids. Go ahead, Aaron. Ever heard the phrase those who can't do teach? I don't know if people know what the origin of that is, but there was a job they wanted to do. That job was unavailable, so they became teachers. All right.
kicked them right in the balls. Kicked them all right in the lady nuts.
Nasty word.
And a lot of you niggas who are working at Amazon, go ahead and get you a teacher certificate. Because we need y'all in this school. What? they in here teaching hooked on phonics and AAEV and ABCD and some other LGBT. Y'all niggas get the fuck in them schools.
They be tripping.
Yeah. Get in these schools, man. All right? These women. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Be safe and do the right thing, man. Like, share, subscribe. Tell a friend to tell.
Man. And there it is. I mean, low key, like y'all kind of should be sad. Like, as educators, it's like it's not the most glorified position ever, but it's a very valuable, needed job, right? And then when it comes to the Black kids in particular, this idea that we have all these Black women presiding over all of this Black educational failure, and at best, all you're going to do is giggle about it. And then people wonder why you get what you
Does
get.
anyone see that? No. Does anyone care about that? No. All they see is an aggressive Black girl talking.
How do it equivalate?
Because there are a lot of people in this country who do not like Black women, but Black women are the base of the Democratic Party.
There's this myth out there that Black men can't handle being spoken to, and told what to do by Black women. Black men come from our bodies. Yeah. So they're used to having these conversations with women.
The matriarchy is strong with the Black
community. It is very strong.
Yeah.
But Black power starts with Black women. It just does.
But I want to address this simping allegation. Do I simp for Black women? Yes. I love Black women. I don't like y'all niggas. This is an easy decision to make. Sorry.
These angry, mad, opportunistic, lying Black women.
A motherfucker just supposed to take and accept whatever the fuck you say because I'm a Black woman. Bitch, shut up. The fuck out of here.
What Black community? It's a Black environment with Black women and Black children in it.
How dare you say that we are not interested in families in the Black community?
Aspiring to be patriarchs like what white men have, that isn't freedom. That isn't going to help anybody. It's certainly not going to help Black people.
It's done. It's done. It's done. It's done. It's done. It's done.